In October of 2025, the University of Hare UFH erupted in flames, figuratively and literally. What started as student unrest escalated into arson, legal battles, and chaos, leaving one of South Africa's historic institutions reeling. This is UFH Scandal Uncovered. Over the next few minutes, we'll trace the story from its roots, examine the players, weigh the claims and counterclaims, and ask what really happened and who pays for the fallout. Let's get into the background and roots before October 2025. The University of Hare is one of South Africa's older institutions with a long legacy in higher education. Professor Sakhela Buhlungu has been Vice-Chancellor of UFH since 2017. His tenure has not been without controversy. In 2018, he reportedly flagged possible corruption and fraud to the Special Investigating Unit SIU. There have been past allegations, including promotion of employees and internal governance disputes. Tensions in South African universities over governance, student representation, SRC disputes, funding, and transformation are long-standing. Protests are not new, but UFH's 2025 events would escalate beyond precedent. Let's get into the escalation. On Monday, October 6, or earlier that week, student protests at UFH began. Road blockades were reported at the Alice campus, burning tires, clashes with security, and mounting unrest. Students' stated grievances included the planned appointment of an interim student representative council and SRC by management rather than fresh elections, allegations of poor governance, mismanagement, and that Vice-Chancellor Buhlungu's contract was unlawfully extended past retirement age. Calls for resignation of key administrators, reinstatement of suspended students and workers, and changes to campus services and safety. As protests intensified, UFH began to shift to online learning to manage disruption. Let's get into the violence, the shutdown, the arson, which happened in mid-October. On October 8 or 9, 2025, the UFH management suspended all operations across its campuses, citing security risks and widespread disruption. Students were ordered to vacate residences by 5 that day. The suspension included halting teaching, administrative work, in-person exams, etc. The protest turned destructive. Several buildings were set ablaze, among them the main administration block, student affairs building, HR offices, and more. Damage estimates ranged between 250 million rands and 500 million rands. That's $500 million. UFH spokesperson JP Roth described the attacks as strategically planned and possibly involving sponsored anarchy. The Bisho High Court granted an interdict against 10 students accused of instigating unrest, barring them from campus. They are due back in court October 21. UFH warned that some former students leaders who exceeded their terms expired on September 30 may have used social media to incite violence. UFH management or the VC Buhlungu responded by alleging that the protests were politically orchestrated, tied to an upcoming report implicating 33 politicians. The Eastern Cape Premier, national government, and Department of Higher Education condemned the violence and demanded swift reopening, safety, and accountability. Minister Buti Manamela called the actions not protests but criminal and directed the university leadership and council to fix structural issues, governance, SRC, contract of the Vice-Chancellor, insourcing, etc. Universities South Africa issued a statement condemning the arson, emphasizing that no matter how justified grievances are, destruction of infrastructure cannot be justified. Parliament's Education Committee heard that the protests may have been hijacked by criminal elements. The Economic Freedom Fighters, the EFF, and other student political groups have made public statements blaming both management and outside actors. Let's get into the damage. UFH has warned that the total recovery or repairing of buildings, replacing infrastructure, could take up to 2 years. Academic continuity is a major issue. Students may lose time, exams will be delayed or cancelled, graduations postponed. Some operations have shifted online temporarily as UFH attempts to maintain teaching and learning. Student groups include the EFFSC, SASCO, PASMA, YBMM, attempted urgent court action to block evictions or harassment of students, but their court application was struck off the roll for failing to comply with procedural timelines and missing affidavits. Observers warn that the distraction hits students hardest, particularly those close to graduation, and erodes trust in management. Let's get into the uncertainties, the allegations, and what we don't know. It's alleged that external political forces may have sponsored or hijacked the protests, but conclusive evidence is not yet public. The report implicating 33 politicians reportedly associated with the timing of protests is claimed by Vice Chancellor Buhlungu, but the contents, origin, or legitimacy remain unclear. The full extent of financial accountability, who pays for the distraction, is unsolved. How many students or leaders will face criminal or disciplinary charges is still developing. Whether management will be restructured or Vice Chancellor Buhlungu will resign or be moved is a point of ongoing demand and negotiation. So where do things stand now? Campuses remain closed to in-person activity. UFH is pushing for return to normalcy under safe conditions. Teaching is being delivered online in the meantime. UFH management says safety, restoration, and continuity are priorities. Minister Manamela is demanding action within a week, including reopening, infrastructure restoration, and institutional reform. The university's fate now rests on how negotiations, legal outcomes, and student management compromise will proceed. The UFH case is more than a campus conflict. It reflects deep structural issues in higher education, governance, accountability, representation, trust, and integrity. When protests erupt, lines blur between legitimate grievance and destructive chaos. In such crises, students, staff, and infrastructure suffer the most, especially those who already had the least margin for error. What happens next, whether leadership changes, reconstruction, or renewed campus culture, will define whether UFH rises from this scandal or becomes a cautionary tale. Thank you for watching this video. What do you think happened? Were the protests hijacked, or was this a justified uprising gone too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. There's more deep dives coming. I'll see you in the next one.